right. Hi, Veggies. It's me, Sarah. This is from my apartment. I hope you're having a good quarantine. Um, I'm recording on my own, just because Adrian and I cannot be together right now. So this is my apartment. I was gonna let you guys know how my first round of America's Got Talent went, for Patreon. It now this I'm gonna give you some details. I figured since it's on Patreon, they're never gonna check out. But just for liability issues, I won't probably let you know um, where if I moved on. But I feel like from context clues, you'll figure it out. Also, please don't tweet at me stuff from this tape because I just don't. They do go through my social media. So, um, but overall, like I'd be okay if they were like, they were like, we're not going to go forward with you. Um, I just didn't feel like it was that conducive for comedy. So I get they fly me out, which is nice, and then they put me up for a hotel, and then I'm there during the whole, kind of right at the beginning of the pandemic. So it feels kind of a little out of touch to be looking for America's number one dance team while we might be going into lockdown. I wasn't sure yet, and then I was nervous that they might even ban travel and that I would be stuck out in LA indefinitely away from Joe. So it was kind of on my mind. So I get there at 10 in the morning. That's not super early, but somebody had pulled the hotel alarm, so I had to get up early at 7 um, and hang out in the parking lot. And then it's kind of an anxiety inducing because I don't know. You just don't want to be like ripped apart in front of national television because you are very protective of like your stand up. Like, I don't know. I like my jokes. I think I do well in front of an audience, but I also understand that America's Got Talent probably isn't the right platform for me, but I also would like more exposure. So that's why I said yes to it. So I kind of knew going in that I probably wouldn't like it. Also, I'd have had similar experiences with um, Last Comic Standing, but at least with Last Comic Standing, that was uh, like all comics. And so it was a show where everybody was doing stand up on the show. Where this one, on my lineup, I was the only one doing stand up. Everybody else was magicians, illusionists, dance teams, kid dance teams, a lot of kid dance teams. And then like novelty acts that you know that aren't really going to go forward, but they're just kind of like make it lively. So, I'm there for from 10 in the morning from there, and then I find out that I probably am not going on until about 8:30 at night. So, usually when I do a gig, I show up 15 minutes before the show, not almost 10 hours later, which is absolutely ridiculous. And my hotel was right there. Like I could have just like gone back and forth, but they were so adamant to stay. So I'm just hanging out most of it. Uh, it's warm. I'm in a group. I'm in like rooms with lots of people. It's dirty. There's tons of kids. I don't have a problem with kids, but when we're also dealing with germs situation that I feel like no one's really paying attention to what they're doing. They're just spreading it everywhere. Like one time, I think I'm just sitting in one of the rooms and there was like a Mormon family. I'm assuming because they all had like long hair, all the girls dressed with dresses, and there were like 8 kids in there. They seemed lovely, no judgment. But they did have lots of kids where they weren't really like, they were well behaved, but they weren't paying attention to sometimes what some of them were doing. Where one was, we all had to drink from the same water fountain. Not water fountain, but like water jug because they're trying to get rid of single use plastic bottles. So we drank from the same water jug. And then their kid, he must have been 4. He was cute. We were drinking from paper cups, and he didn't realize that if you hold down the button, the water will stream until you lift off. He kept thinking that if you pressed it, it would stream, and then if you pressed it again, it would stop streaming. So he just kept like pressing it, getting a little bit, putting it to his mouth, putting it back directly onto the faucet, and then he did that like 8 times. So then I'm just like, ugh. So now I'm not gonna drink any water. Uh, So in the meantime, periodically you do photo shoots. They make you interact with some of the guests. Some of them are like really weird. It's inorganic. It seems so unnatural. You feel uncomfortable. I'm trying to make the best of it, just have like a good time. But you're just like, I don't. None of us are actors. A lot of them aren't even close to ever being on film before, so it's just very awkward. Um, it's not like I've had a huge experience, but I do feel like I know a little bit to like play for the camera a little bit. You do a long interview process, and it's a lot of like, why do you think you deserve to be here? And you're just like, I don't know if I deserve to. Like, is this really a treat? Um, so and then they're trying to make a story out, and you're like, I don't really have that much of a story. I'm just like, I guess the hardest thing I've ever gone through is maybe, cut my bangs, and they were a little off for a little while. Nothing. It's not like I feel like they were looking for like burn victims or somebody with like major disabilities, and there were a few of that. And then, so then, yeah, you're just doing interviews periodically, and that's all day. They only feed you once, which I don't really feel like is a fair amount for almost like a 12-hour day. You don't get paid, and it was quite a bit of work, it felt like. And then finally, you're backstage, but they don't even let you get into that moment where you're just like, sometimes in these situations, you kind of want to be by yourself and uh, like check in with yourself and just like make sure you don't fuck up any of your jokes. I mean, it's only 2.5 minutes, and I know it's not prom, but it just seems like high stress knowing that you're about to go up in front of Simon Cowell. So then I go out. They kept pushing me too. They were just like, okay, we're gonna have one more go. And I'm just, most of the time I'm just like, okay, I don't care. Where was I gonna go? But at the same time, you're just like, oh, I just want it over and done with. So then I go out. It's all the judges was four. They had a guest judge because Heidi was sick, if you noticed on TMZ. I'm sure you guys don't pay attention. I wouldn't have known unless my friend pointed it out. It's Howie, Eric Stone Street, Simon Cowell, and Sofia Vergara. So I go up. Then they do a mini interview where they've already vetted you on the questions. So even that interview process doesn't even seem organic and fun. And then they're like, this is a way for you to be fun. Mind you, I'm still the only stand-up on the show. So I just followed like a dance team, a magician, and then some 73-year-old lady with abs with a sparkle bikini who didn't really have an act, but just kind of like walk around the stage just clapping. I mean, she was lovely, but you're just like, I don't know what the talent is here. Just that she's just looks great. So then I finally go up. Then I do the interview, and all the judges were really nice. I only talked. It was really just like Eric and then maybe Howie that I kind of talked to. The one person that I'm like hoping to have the the most approval, the one that I care about the most is Simon Cowell. I don't know why. I don't know why. I guess because he can be mean. So I do my act. I start off with what lately is what I feel is like my best joke. So it doesn't do well. I mean, it just kind of falls flat. Then I'm like, don't panic, whatever. Just go into the next bit. And so I did that one. And then I started getting laughs. And I think that's because they were kind of getting used to who I was as a person or like kind of as a stand-up. Also, there was hardly any crowd there because it was a pandemic and people are really nervous about being in front of an audience. And this was like right when we were all like, yeah, we should fucking go inside. So I was thinking that when I looked up that the upper prom would be full. Nobody was there. Then I was like, oh shit, in my mind. So I was like, okay, so I'll just play to these people. But then the way they have the judges set up, it's all four of them in this huge desk. And they're just blocking the whole audience. You can't really see except a few on the proms, but because it wasn't full, those proms weren't even full. So it was mainly the center of the auditorium that they had sat, and that wasn't even full. Like, I think there may have been probably close to 50 people in the audience, and that was a huge theater. Also, I'm not like a huge act, so I feel like I get swallowed up. I'm gonna have to do like a lot of pacing and like repeating myself in order to become more of like a bigger performer for this stage. So it was kind of like getting used to. So I do my second joke. That starts getting better. And then I'm getting more into my act, and I felt like I was starting to get them on my side. And I got a little bit of an applause, but I just barreled through. So I didn't let them do the full thing, which I probably should have because it would have been better, I think. So I finish being like, okay, that wasn't so bad. So then Simon Cowell goes, he's the first one that talks. He's just like, I don't even know what you're talking about. As if like I was in like another language. And then it dawned on me. Simon Cowell's like never had a struggle in his entire life. He grew up wealthy. He went to a preparatory school, like a private school that was, yearly tuition's expensive. Then he worked for his dad's company, and then he started his own. And basically as a producer, you're just like somebody that has money, and then you get to find people that have good voices. I mean, like, I don't want to be rude, but like how difficult can that be? I mean, I know some people, even if you have a great voice, that doesn't mean, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like if I had a lot of money, I could probably be a producer as well. Anyway, no diss. I mean, I do still respect Simon Cowell. So I was like, oh, geez, yikes. So then Sophia goes up. She's nice, and I say nice because she was nice to me. She was like, your jokes were really relatable. I thought everything was great. She thought it was funny. And then I got the kind of like the same response from the other three. And then Howie kind of backed me up. He was like, what do you mean you don't get any of this? She had, avocados are expensive, and like sometimes you can get stressed out about that, like going ripe, and then like, throwing out people's stuff like the Marie Kondo things. And like, so he got it. So, but then the way that Eric Stone Street first stated his statement, he said, well, comedy's subjective. Oh God, anytime that somebody says that, it just doesn't feel like a compliment's going to follow. But it did, and he was nice about it. So I was like very grateful. So I got 3 positive response and then 1 negative response. So you guys can kind of determine what goes from there. But now we're in a pandemic. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't even know if I want to keep doing it. I just felt it was like, I did not. Usually after you do a stressful set like that, there's a feeling of relief afterwards. I had no sense of relief. I was stressed out, and then I was like, oh my God, I probably look like an idiot. Because they ask you stuff of like, do you think you're funny? Like, that's almost like, do you think you're pretty? It seems crazy to be like, oh yeah, I'm like, because the people that say that they're the funniest, like, they're not really the funniest. It's always the ones that aren't that self-aware. And also people that are, like, there's so many comics that I don't even find that funny off stage, but they know how to, really comedy is just kind of like figuring out why the way that you think and your critical thinking or your thought process, and like delivering that in a way that is true to you. That's why it's funny. Like, I don't know. If you can figure it out, most people, you can be funny, I think. You just also have to be a funny person. But to do stand-up, I think you don't really necessarily have to be the funniest person in the room. So it doesn't even matter. So these questions are quite daunting. That's what I have so far. So thanks. That was longer than I thought. But we are going to do more tiers for coronavirus, because Adrian and I are out of work, and we don't want to just ask for money. And we're appreciative of all the donations that you guys have sent through Venmo or Patreon. That's like so appreciative. So, and then we're working on a merch store. So hopefully we'll get stuff, like if you guys pay for stuff, that you will get something in return and more content. So we're working on that, and we really appreciate everyone that's listening, and thank you, and stay safe, and wash your ass and wash your face and your hands, and just stay clean. All right. Love everybody. Bye.